Good evening. I started a stream to try to talk about what I didn't talk about in the last stream about did Jesus, you know, did Jesus come with a comet? Was Jesus' second coming with a comet or in a comet or whatever people want to think about it, as absurd as people might think? Uh, Even both those options are. Or just as a notification method, a comet was used to be consistent with the way comets were thought of because of the next level, I think. And anyway, I'm not going to get into all that right now because I want to advertise this stream to my other two locations that have people interested in what I have to say about my experience with Heaven's Gate, etc. And which is on Facebook if you don't know about it already. Um, Sawyer Heaven's Gate, and on YouTube as 3SPM, of course, which you probably know if you're tuning into this. I haven't advertised it on Twitter yet, Twitter X, but I will in a minute here. And there it is with the square comet. Pick. Greetings, the Fin Show. Kathy's not with me on this drive home from work. Since the Fin Show, if Kathy's listening, was, well, I guess you would see then the chats if she is. But yeah, I just want to advertise this to Twitter. Okay, for Twitter, and then Facebook. um, let's see here. Okay, that seems good there. And then I guess the only other thing I have to do is I'll briefly look at the chat before I start driving and change it to live chat. And scroll down, and I see the fin show. Pop out chat. Okay, so that's that part. And then I want to just get this on the screen. And hopefully OBS won't kick out this time. I want to be able to watch OBS as well to see that I'm still ticking. And that seems to work for that. And that seems to work for that. So, uh, now he's got to pay attention to driving for a little bit. Well, just in short, I wonder if that's another water machine over there. I try to fill up with the water machines, Kathy and I do. And I got to the one, and I put my jugs in. I got 3 gallon. We've got 3 gallon jugs. Then again, don't know if you want to use certain water machines. Because you gotta wonder how often they're serviced. I don't know what that kind of machine is. Maybe it's some kind of ATM thing. All right, so I'm not going there. I can get back on track. Sorry for boring you. Uh, all these speed bumps. Uber driver's nightmare. Speed bumps. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what I would be surprised by. Well, actually, I do know. The next level can surprise us all the time. You know, that's why nobody was able to really call the shots on what was going to happen with this last election. Even though, uh, the people that experienced the last election knew of the things that were being done to trick people into uh, and to, far more than before that I ever witnessed in or heard about since the time of Nixon and Kennedy. Even though I wasn't following the elections while I was in the classroom. Okay, so I'm on track to get onto the highway. But people don't wake up, I don't think, unless they have something that's very difficult to get through. I'm not the one that wants to make those difficulties. The next level system and their actions now, as we speak, uh, those are the individuals that bring us difficulties, so that we can have a chance to grow and change. I mean, what? Who's going to change something that's working for them for the most part, right? And some of it, I think, is built in. And anybody that's actually wanting to, I think I can say this honestly, wanting to know Tiando's mind more and more, uh, they've got the attention to some degree, perhaps. Uh, it depends on the strength of that desire. It's not something that they take casually. We can't assume it. That's what happened with the religions. They assume that if you believe in Jesus, that he rose from the dead uh, and that he was from the kingdom of God, uh, then it became that would get you into heaven. Just that belief. And you're expected, of course, to abide by certain rules, and that got you know uh, lost as things that were impossible to think about doing because we're all mammals or souls in mammal vehicles with a mixture of mind being the substance of the soul, and the quality of the soul is the mind because it's actually information, it's actually knowledge, it's actually wisdom, it's it's what we get from our older members. And some people would, of course, use the term God for that, and rightfully so. It's part of that. But while I'm talking about that, it's interesting the study that Kathy's embarking into the Zechariah Stitchin ancient philosophies and things. And she's showing these things with these markers that are made. I forgot what she calls them now. That are that she's deciphering, showing the deciphering of these different pictograms of individuals with horns and sometimes with a animal or reptilian bird-like beak and vehicle like the Egyptians portrayed, and uh, and all those things to me are depicting the space aliens and depicting the deity over the space aliens, which were which Zachariah Stitchin seemed to really pick up on a lot of truth from, my best recollection, when he knew that the Elohim were not these same individuals that were being depicted as gods. He didn't say it exactly like that, but uh, and they depicted laboratories and genetic engineering because that's not new information. This isn't the first civilization on Earth. It's only human limited thinking, that thinks that what we've achieved is the ultimate to achieve, except for what we can achieve by our understanding and recognition of the spirit world. And, but even taking that and seeing that as the goal to be in the spirit form, when reality is that you need to use your vehicle to develop spirit, mind. That's the more accurate terminology that T and Do brought. That those were equivalent terms, spirit and mind. And that's a huge, huge picture to me. Maybe not to other people, of course. But uh, yeah, I'm not on Ben White yet, but I'm not off track. I've got to turn in a eighth of a mile. So I know I didn't get to the points I was making. I left a lot of loose ends, but I'm going to let them go because I want to get to the Jesus coming back with a comet before I get on to other things that you know that I might touch up base on. Um, so the word I'm focusing is in Matthew 24:27. That's the next slide after this one. Or maybe both lanes go to that direction. All right, I'm good. But the word lightning. Now, I think it's really interesting to look at. I don't have the ability to look at it in great depth right now. But of the gleam of a lamp is one of the translations to that word astrape. Now, I said that like with an Italian accent. Sounded to me like it was kind of silly. But astrape, I think, is a pronunciation given for Strong's Concordance number 796. But it says it's from 797. And if you search it out, I'm not going to go through all that now because I can't while I'm driving. And it's up to the individual's thirst to check me out, see if I'm saying something that's not true. But it was used 8 times as lightning and 1 time as light shining. And yet the word astrape will take you back to the word aster, A-S-T-E-R. And no, I'm not going on the toll. And aster is the word for star. And you can see astrape. It's even in there. So another translation could be from that onto 71 East. Anyway, um, sometimes let's see. Anyway, and now I'm turning around because I have to go to 71 West, actually. if you know what I mean, Kathy, if you happen to be listening. Anyway, um, so why couldn't you say, oh yeah, when you look at the origin of the word astrape, then you see that it's actually saying what all the possible, well, some of the possible ways of describing that word are that it's a light that's strewn across the heavens, across the starscape of outer space. And what do we see in a comet? Isn't it strewn? There's a tail. And if it's close enough, that tail is very evident to the naked eye. See, the next level didn't uh, um, give preparation for what they were going to do in a way that required the sciences, except for the science of the eye. So, so I want to get to something else for a second, because that really kind of answered the question. Was Jesus planning to come with a comet? Because he's saying it comes out of the east and shines to the west. So in other words, this is something that's moving. And is it moving just the same way that the stars move? Because you could say that they're strewn also, right? But not really. You don't actually see that tail on the stars. So I would disqualify that. And it says, "So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." Now I know Enoch was talked about as the Son of Man. I think there was some even not part of the Bible recollection of the Adam materials and the Abraham materials and the Cain and Abel materials. I forgot who that was through that I learned about those materials, but that Son of Man was also used with. But as far as I know, it was Ezekiel, but maybe not. Maybe I haven't really studied in depth this subject really per se, but except I know there could be more depth, of course, and it's not necessary, I don't think. But if you look at the words "Son of Man," which I've talked about many times, um, then you'll see a relationship of the word man with Homo sapien. So anyway, and then the next verse of Matthew is interesting, where it says, "For wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together." Now, I don't think that would be described as a carcass if it was referring to the fruit of the kingdom. No, that's talking about the dead, wherever the dead are, and so uh, and the eagles will be gathered together. I just saw that in a new way, a kind of a double way, like um, I always thought of that as the space aliens, like the birds, like it was also depicted by the parable of the sower, where the birds end up eating the souls that were planted, deposited, like I talked about the last time. So, uh, and then it says, like after the tribulation of those days, still talking about the future next level time. That's where people don't, they get off track uh, by thinking things should have happened by now. Then the sun will be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heavens shall be shaken. So this is to me depicting Revelation uh, 6, the end of it, and Revelation 19, which is the return of the Son of Man, his mind. Um, that is all part of that same period of time. And he comes in two ways. You see in Revelation 11 as the two witnesses, one of the two witnesses, and is and as the son to the woman in Revelation 12. In other words, the son towards T, which is that he learned he was. He learned, not because T told him. See, of course, the media, they depicted that, some of them, in one of the last things. I think they really try to do a hatchet job on the last, since the cult of cults. I think the intention was to not make it look believable, even if that was subconscious. Because I think cult of cults provided a little help. Um, well, a little help to look at the subject in a positive light. I don't know if we ever used, a National Geographic's help with that too, when they published that it might be the second coming. They published me saying that, and I asked the production, the person that it was an individual's project. I don't know, how many individuals were working with her, but I asked her if she could use if there's nothing that she uses from the 3 hours or so of footage that I gave her. I'd like to at least have me saying that it might be the second coming. Do you know? Without giving any details to that. And she did. She included it. In fact, I said it twice, and it was in. I don't know if it was in the trailer or not. Uh, so I think uh, the next level helped her include that because the lower forces wouldn't want to see that. So they would have been not even having to think about it. Or if they were going to think about it, rule it out for some reason. If she wanted to, try to put in what I asked for. Um, I don't know. That's just the way I'm thinking about it now. I don't know how TNO might see it, but um, so so I wouldn't be at all surprised if Zachariah Stitchin was among people that were touched by the next level, but they don't have to be touched by the next level directly necessarily because the next level uses um, takes advantage of knowing that the fallen angels, the space aliens that went against after many opportunities to change and not go against, continued to go against the next level, and they lost sight of the reality of the next level as being like an evolutionary step above human. They remained, they lost that. Jesus took it away. That's what, Jesus talked about one of the parables that the Lord giveth, and that's where that expression comes from. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, because Jesus said that one person that the king invested in, or the owner of the business or the property or whatever it was at that time, invested in, was going away, and so invested in several individuals. And the one that uh, um, didn't do anything with it, like because they were afraid of losing it and getting the wrath of the master. And the ones that um, invested it foolishly used it foolishly for lavish living or whatever it was, uh, they they both lost what they were given. Well, maybe not in both cases, but in one case, I think even what they had was taken away from them. Oh, I don't know if it was the one that didn't want to spend it for fear, and maybe that individual in their genetic past, had a bad experience with somebody giving them money and then punishing them if they didn't gain from it. Well, the next level would punish them, but the next level, see, there's this thing of whether you believe the next level, uh, whether you sense that we can be fooled by sensing that the next level cares about us. Okay? But they do care about us, otherwise, we wouldn't be alive at all. Never. There never would have been the existence of the human kingdom, I think is fair to say, if the next level didn't care about what could become of that human kingdom. I think that's somewhat accurate enough to work for our understanding. I'm not saying that that's you know, I know I'm stating the obvious a lot of times, but so but care is in degrees, and if if I were to tell you that they care about everybody the same way, I'd be lying from what I understand about how the next level works according to the teachings of Tiendo. Except in the way that they give every entity a lifespan or more. And I can hear the people saying, well, how come they allow cancer for children who don't get a full lifespan? And one thought about that is that cancer didn't come from the next level. It comes from humans. But I might be wrong about that. Okay? I'm just saying that's one thought. That's potential. Or uh, whether that child is enabled to conquer that cancer can also be something that the next level could choose to do. But that the spirit that's developing in a vehicle that gets cancer diagnosis is can be a great accelerator for that spirit to learn a lot from, and can also offer their perspective, whatever it is, to those around us that are suffering because of the cancer that that individual has. I've heard the testimony of um, several parents that suffered through the cancer of a child, and uh, and talked about that how that child was how their tolerance for pain seemed to be great, and how um, they didn't want people to be sad about what they were going through, and so those individuals, we don't know that the next level wouldn't give a soul all kinds of different opportunities, or if it's part of the human kingdom, the development of the mind, spirit, that is the beginning of a soul, because it's the content we're talking about. The content, whether it's true information or whether it's misinformation, whether it's from the mind of those that fell away and lost sight of the reality of the next level in the way that the next level is real, not just a space alien group, another space alien group that they can be in competition with, which is also what they don't want to have with humans. They don't want humans to become something they have to compete with, because they can be harmed. They can have their physical bodies that they have hybridized killed. They can have their spacecrafts destroyed. That's why they want the human kingdom to be their slaves, to build weapon systems, so they can protect themselves if they're, from the civilization itself and from anything else. And that's why they also want to grow babies, have their baby growing, the genetic factories, and be able to manipulate those genes to have designer babies that then they can raise and brainwash with their thinking and only their thinking. And now you see that happening more and more in Europe, between like England and Germany, which I've heard about this before, but of late it's been in the news. When J.D. Vance went there, and Marco Rubio, and how basically Obama became the union of the European Union and the two beasts, the European Union and the United States of America. I believe. Makes sense to me relative to Scripture and the book of Revelation. And by the way, I don't think there's any fix in this. But fixing this United States or the European Union. And so what they're doing is they're doubling down. They're cracking down more on, because they probably see the United States as allowing the descent that they allowed as having made a mistake. I think that's actually talked about. They made a mistake in not censoring more. And so now they're censoring all kinds of stuff in Germany and England. And they're calling it hate speech, and you could go to jail if you're prosecuted for hate speech. And so if you're seen publicly insulting somebody in public, that's a crime. And that if you do it online, it's a bigger crime, because you're influencing people and it just stays there. Where if you just do it in the town square, it just goes off into the ether, right? Except for the people that heard it and carry it forth, which is word of mouth. That's the biggest form of communication there is, and word of mouth can travel very quickly if you think about it. By telephone, so the German effort to make it to where you can even go to jail if you're on the internet, by their definition of what is hate speech. Because one person's hate speech isn't going to be the same as another person's hate speech if just insulting people is. So if you use the word F-U-C-K about somebody, is that hate speech? Or if you use the word uh, the words that were outlawed in the United States and still are outlawed in the mainstream media, you know, uh, you can get canceled for not using certain words. So there's a certain amount of that brainwashing that exists in the United States as well. For a long time it has. But now it's being made uh, more broad. It's much broader, and and we're watching that Trump, with all his problems in the way he expresses himself and the things that he's done in his life, is standing for truth. He doesn't want the censorship, and J.D. Vance is standing for truth. He doesn't. They don't want the censorship because of what you lose by not having multiple ideas to talk about. Basically, then you're being dictated to by whatever government agenda is. And we saw that for the last 4 years with the administration putting billions of dollars into their Green New Deal program. And billions of dollars into their open borders program that they framed as humanitarian. But all these things, or um, billions of dollars into their investments that can turn a profit, while, of course, still doing all the trading in arms and things, and bolstering up all the technologies, the electric car mandates, and electric buses, which they paid for in advance, even though they didn't get the buses. So what that looks like to me is that idea of buses, electric buses, that the bus companies said that they couldn't produce as fast as they wanted them to be produced, was a way of washing the money when they had in mind going to another program that they don't want to be in front of the public eye, like maybe even their organ generation and their clone development programs. the biological hybridization programs, the same program that Hitler was doing. That's what we're looking at. The people, the pot calling the kettle black. With that stupid expression. Enslaving people to a mindset by censorship because of how what they feel the truth needs to be for people, which they can't tell you about, is that they need all these systems to help you function, and they didn't give a hoot about how much anything cost. Because whenever it came up by the Republican Congress people, and the Libertarian people, about the mess of the debt and the use of the money for the military, they wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't bring it to the floor. So it never became anything to investigate. They basically had a dictatorship over all the money that comes into the United States of America. And by giving a lot away, it made them look very humanitarian. And they may be genuinely humanitarian in that way. Wanting to give the projects, but I don't think so. I think that's a fake humanitarianism. Because they wouldn't be capable of only thinking inside that one box about the things that were a priority for the people. Because they don't think of themselves as the people. They think of themselves as being in the positions of power that they have because it's a mission that they have from God or from space alien gods. They may even think of them as space aliens because there are space aliens that portray themselves to contactees as the creators of humans. And that gets back to what with Enki and these very interesting histories that I haven't read, but that Kathy's been digging into and learning a lot. Very interesting things. And then she brings it to she brings certain things to the artificial intelligence and baffles them. So, she should be paid for bringing new insights to the artificial intelligence. That should be seen as like a must for that artificial intelligence to be the best it can be. And I think people that develop it, they want it to be the best it can be. But so And you have to be very careful with the order in which, like for instance, in Matthew 24:30, it says, "And then shall you see the sign of the Son of Man." In heaven. Well, again, that refers to what? They're saying it's in the heavens, so that's the elevated areas. So what would be the sign of the Son of Man? Because he just described it as lightning announcing his coming. There should be some kind of lightning strewn through the, like a star. And it was interesting that Kathy found where they were talking about uh, the creation, the beings that were being created as being stars in the, I don't know if that was the Egyptian hieroglyph or the Sumerian. But if you just take the word then there, because it makes it appear that everything's going to happen like they just talked about, and then shall you see the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, which, it can be actually the Revelation 19 at that point, with the tribes of the earth mourning, but that looks like the two witnesses with, I believe, like Comet Kohoutek, which was a great comet. Tiendo would always say that, they, I think Comet Kohoutek was coming to perihelion, I think, or maybe closest point to Earth. I don't know which it was. Uh, Around the first of January 1973, I think. I believe that's when their car died near St. Louis, east of St. Louis, and they ended up. And they ended up taking one of those credit cards that apparently they weren't using for that year and rented a car from it. Those days, I don't remember if they required a credit card to rent a car, but for a long time, you had that requirement. I don't know if you still do. I guess to ensure that you're going to get it back. But have more assurance, I guess. Which led to them, well, it was just happened to be the time when they felt like they had to tell somebody in the press the story of what they came to understand about who they were and why they were here, to tell people about the next level, physical kingdom, many membered, uh, work in laboratories. Now, see, here's where people can say that was interesting. No, I'm not going to get into all that right now. I guess I'll just say one thing about it, and that is that in those beginning years, tea and dough were uh, like when they got to burn Texas, uh, they were burning on fire with the next level's mind. I think would be safe to say. But they had to figure out what there was to do. And so they had to understand everything they could understand about the subjects that would be considered to be spiritual, philosophical. And so they no doubt went to libraries all the time and studied the books that were in there. And I know they went to bookstores and also, so I don't know if they saw it. I don't know when Zachariah Stitchin's book that Kathy's been reading about the ancients uh, was written. It was one of his first ones or last ones. But if it was among them, they could have got ideas from those books. That's not like taking away from, but they would, because of their minds, certain things would stick that they felt were based on the truth. Because the mind that they brought with them knew how to recognize the truth. Because the truth has reality to it. If it's something that's made up, it doesn't have any legs. I mean, yeah, it can have legs in the human kingdom, but it becomes legs that are seen as artificial, like science fiction, for the most part. And so that's why there's all these people that are basically well, individuals in the human kingdom attract uh, the help, directly or indirectly, from the space alien souls. They're on spacecrafts. Some of them are probably in orbit, some kind of an orbit, but they're very, very small. And I don't know if humans can actually see what they're made of. They still probably have the ability to cloak themselves, which would have been a characteristic of the spacecraft that they had, because they could have a spacecraft that could last for I don't know what the limit would be in thousands of years, you know. So I think it's perfectly logical. However, they got that spacecraft. It could have been the civilization developed to make those spacecrafts. Maybe a civilization could develop to make spacecrafts uh, without the lower forces present, to use them for like weapons. Because the next level wouldn't, although the next level would develop ways of dealing with the weapons. Like they say that they can just turn off the electronics or something. So what if they could just basically shoot a ray at something, a laser thing that just gobbles up the electricity for that object. So even a missile that was going towards them, like having its own power system, just goes out. I don't know. That's my imagination about it. But so that word then in Matthew 24, 30, that can be seen as an order of which things were going to happen, can be also translated to, and is translated to at least one time, as at that time. At that time. So that puts it within that same time period of the end of the return, of the beginning and the middle and the end of that return, is all being depicted by Jesus as one time period. So for people to like say that, well, this hasn't happened yet, or this hasn't happened yet, and so this can't happen, there can be a general correctness to that, but if they rule certain things out, um, well, they're going to just be blocking themselves to what, which the lower forces would have people do. And that's what they use, that's the way they can use intellect and people believing in themselves so much that they don't think they can be wrong about something, some certain things. Other things, they could be like an idiot savant, however you say that, to where one score they're brilliant, considered to be brilliant by people, and maybe rightfully so, and then another score not be able to tie their their shoelaces together, or think in a certain way, but they can compose, they can play the piano automatically, like the way that designed. Mozart designed. Because I guess they become able to be so focused on one part of the development of a human vehicle that maybe the actual individual that was Mozart looks for certain vehicles and then just fills them with their mind, to where they don't have a brain that's going to say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's just coming out. It's just coming out. And they say, well, that's a brilliant musician, when basically they're an instrument. That vehicle is an instrument for whatever mind is using that vehicle. Whatever soul is using that vehicle, if it's a soul. which maybe it would be. Maybe a developed soul that actually became a member of the next level can come into a human and inspire them to become great in what they do. Have some kind of unique characteristic that they work at. To become a great singer or a great mathematician, an Einstein, or a great artist, painter, or whatever. And and that becomes harder to get out of because it's so pleasing that even if you, uh, let's say you make millions and billions of dollars, um, and you don't find yourself happy because of that, even though you have everything you want that money could buy, even with the best doctors, and and uh, that that even though you're not happy with that, you're not gonna probably be that easily ready to give it all away. Like Jesus talked about with that rich person who said, "I followed all these commandments since my youth. What do I lack?" And he said, "Well, give away your riches to the poor and come and follow me." And he had a lot of wealth, so he couldn't do it. So Jesus gave us that illustration because it's true. It becomes harder, but there's always somebody that can. And I think it was planned ahead of time that I'll already, uh, and maybe Sarafodi as well had some access, and maybe some others that I don't know about. I think Lagodi might have had significant funds to contribute to the task. In other words, those vehicles were picked by the next level to help to have the ability to help with the task, so that for, at least for a period of time they wouldn't need to work. Maybe the next level thought it was possible that they could have completed the task, um, within that within months, like they said initially. That's the next level, having the highest hopes for us, and then being willing to work for as long as it would take, within reason. Because even though some individuals that they didn't, they would need to still come back to the human kingdom of those individuals. They got a big boost by uh, taking what to the vehicle was a leap of faith. So, we've got 14 miles. Oops. Well, I'm almost at my turn, so I don't know if I see a lot of comments, but I'm driving, so I really can't read them. Hyper Baroque, I will read all these when I get home, and I'll talk to you. Or talk about these things. Um, I'll probably do a stream in the next few days where I can pay attention to the chat. Um, let's see if there's anything else. Oh, yeah. So I'm done. I can't read that. I wish I could. Should be something I could press and it'll just do everything audio. I know those kind of systems exist. Yeah, the hate speech laws. That's the true fascism. Because they're doing everything to protect their interests, their money, so that they have money to do the things they want to do. Because many of the biggest countries, or maybe even all the countries, are under the influence of one or more space alien souls. I don't know if those souls have agreed uh, to have, well, they all have multiple interests, and maybe that's why you see conflict within their own governments with the directions that they wanted to take. But also, I was talking about, the billions that were put into the whole prospect of or belief that humans were the cause of global warming. That the billions upon billions that they put towards that, or to the idea of that, without those things actually coming to take place. Like was I gave the example happened with the buses, the electric buses that the Biden administration paid for, uh, and were told that they weren't going to get that soon. Um, but they were paid for ahead of time. See, that's a sure sign of I shouldn't say sure sign, I could be wrong about it, but a sure sign of, because who in business would ever pay for a product that costs millions of dollars, or a number of products that cost millions and millions and tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars, and pay for the whole thing up front and not get anything back from what the world's businesses do is they pay for things in stages when they see the results coming back. It'd be stupid. So these are the kind of things that are being uncovered, and there's going to be a lot more. There's been so much graft uh, um, in the years since 2000 or 1990s, I would say, is where it escalated the most. That's been occurring, and it goes across party lines. Those parties really aren't, you know, uh, strict to or void from this. That's why it's kind of like, a lot of people in government were resigning and things, because they don't want to be in front of the wrath of being held to talk about where this money went. Because there could be a lot of prosecutions. And of course, they're going to be protesting. I'm not saying that there aren't innocent people that are losing their jobs, that their jobs were helping people. I hope uh, this administration have enough heart to learn how to quickly discern with who um, deserves to keep on having funds to help them with things. I don't think to me, what they should be doing, if they really want to show the good part of their efforts, is they should make it easy to get food stamps right away. So that even with inflation, that's a way to fight against inflation. So people don't have to be concerned about eating and eating well. If they're saving billions and trillions, then why not? And boy, would that shut people up if they started doing humanitarian things like that. Maybe they could pay off the debts of a lot of the school loans because, a lot of those loans are greatly inflated because of all the money that the bureaucracy gets. If you think about it, maybe they could, forgive all kinds of loans. I mean, what's going to happen to, look at the amount of debt. I mean, they have, it's on the board, it's on the books that you can go bankrupt every 7 years in the United States. I mean, even within the financial, you know, the Wall Street people and everything, what happened in 2008 under Obama, they certainly do have a secret government, a hidden government. Uh, but it's not. I don't believe it's all powerful, and I don't think they even. Uh, I don't know what they thought. I think it's the next level that got involved uh, to keep them from killing Trump and putting him in jail before the election. Maybe even keep them from, doing something to declare martial law. Because they don't want to have that face. But the way they're thinking, that the end of the world is going to come if people continue to burn fossil fuels, to where they were going to outlaw it so that uh, if it would basically be banned if you could get it. Except for the rockets and the military. I thought that they were going to try to store it, in underground facilities. I think they do put things back into some of the caverns that they take things out of. Good night, folks.